Guys, we're having trouble coming up with interesting content about the week. And I thought maybe you guys would be interested in the scrubbing brush that Allie got. She got to try it out today. I don't know if you guys have seen those scrubby. It's like a motorized scrubby brush.
You know, we're old when that's the highlight of my week is using my new scrubby brush. But I saw it on TikTok and I got influenced.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it too and I've thought about it, but I was like, I don't really, am I going to use that? I don't know.
Well, I used it today on my kitchen. I did the entire kitchen, like my stove, my sink, my counters, everything with the scrubby brush.
Does it work?
Yes. It's the one that, for those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, it's a rotating brush on a handle, so you don't have to like scrub. You can just let it rotate and it like gets the shit off.
Is it a brush or like a sponge?
There's a bunch of different attachments. There's a couple of like brushes, and then there's a couple like heavy duty sponges, and then there's like a normal sponge.
How much was it?
$50.
You think it's worth it?
Off of TikTok shop.
Should I get it?
So far, I think so, because I don't like, I'm not good at cleaning. Like, I'm not one of those girls who can get all the little, like, make it look spotless.
Yeah, do you ever watch Clean Talks?
Yeah.
Those are crazy.
Those are crazy, and I'm not that person.
I guess I'm not either. I always think I am when I watch those. I'm like, I could do
that. But then when it gets down to it, I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
But the scrubby brush has, like, a smaller pointed brush, and I was using it.
Get the corners.
I was using it in the corners and the grout on my counters. I didn't realize that was pretty dirty.
Yeah.
Because it's very small, skinny grout. Like, it's hard to, like, even see. And I was using it, and it was, like, getting clean. And I was like, oh, shit.
Did it change color?
It was, like, yeah, it was brown in between there. And now it's, like, white-ish.
Oh, less
green
brown
color.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't get all of it, but it was very satisfying today. I couldn't stop.
I kind of want to use it now.
You can borrow it. So that was, that
really, that sounds very satisfying.
Really lame, but yeah, I'm going to.
That sounds, no, I want one.
I'm going to use it in my shower tonight.
I want to try. But you got to tell me how the shower, you send me before and after pictures.
I don't know if.
No, send me
I don't
before
know
and
if
after.
my shower's like dirty enough for it to be like, look how gross it is.
You never know. It's probably dirtier than you think.
Maybe.
I've been in your shower before.
Yeah, it gets dirty.
No, I think there's something sticky on the wall.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you think this is going to work?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I wipe it
There's
down.
like soap on the wall, I think.
Okay. Well, this will get it off for sure. But that's
Yeah.
why I bought it mainly, was for the shower. It's just grimy, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting stuff, guys. This is the content you've been craving.
So exciting.
This week we're talking about, well, first of all, I'm Kirsten.
I'm Allie.
And you're listening to Thank You So Much. Thank you so much for Intersectional Feminism. It's a mouthful. So this is the last. Is it the last? No, we still have one more. Damn, this is really a long month for Women's Month.
March is long.
Yeah, but anyway, we decided that we're going to talk about intersectional feminism. It's like basically what we should base all of our feminist thought on.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought we would at least define it for you guys.
Yeah.
We're kind of like, we've been putting it off because it's serious. It's a serious subject, and it's kind of hard to make it funny.
Yeah. We like to have fun over
here. Yeah, we like to
We like to kiki.
Yeah.
But
I feel like, sometimes we just got to talk about it, and we got to be like, hey.
Yeah.
This is what it is, and this is what we can do to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And then here are some fun facts. And we do have some fun facts. Maybe they're not fun, but factoids. Yeah. We have some facts for you. And I don't know, I feel like we did a little bit of history of some women last week, and there's a little bit of that this week too. So without further ado, here we go. So yeah. So Kimberly Crenshaw is known as the creator of intersectionality theory. And that's who...
It's Kimberly.
Is it, though?
Kimberly.
Well, it's spelled like that, but then I heard people say it on video as Kimberly.
It's probably Kimberly, and I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well,
But
it's spelled with
it looks like
yeah, it has the
Kimberly.
E with an accent.
Like a French version.
Yeah,
of
so it
Kimberly.
seems like it would be Kimberly, but then I heard an interview and they called her Kimberly. So, but they could be wrong and she just didn't correct them.
True.
Well, now, anyway, that's the last time I'm going to say her name, but maybe it's Kimberly, maybe it's Kimberly.
No, it's probably Kimberly.
Well, I don't know. I don't know now. Because I thought it was Kimberly at first, too. And then I was like, I looked it up in the video and she called her Kimberly. But maybe she's wrong.
Who knows?
But anyway, she is the creator of intersectionality theory, just like coined the term. And she's a professor of law at UCLA and Columbia. And she's known as an expert on race, racism, the law, and women, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So basically, intersectionality. What does that mean?
Well, it's a word that's used to illustrate the interplay between discrimination. So whether it's based on gender, race, age, class, sexual identity, religion, or more. So it's just like encompasses everyone.
Yeah.
It's inclusive.
Yeah. Inclusive of any kind of group that would be discriminated. So what Kimberly, what Professor Crenshaw said.
There you go.
What Professor Crenshaw said is, basically that we experience life, discrimination, and benefits based on a number of identities that we have. So we don't just have the identity of women. Black women have the identity of woman and being black. And so it gives us the vocabulary or the language to see it in order to address it and talk about it.
And, we're going to talk about this as
and it's
two
not just
white women.
Yeah, but it's also, we could think of it intersectional for ourselves because there's also disability, you know, that goes into play. So it's like our identities as women and then our identities as women with ADHD. Mm-hmm. But we are two white women, and that's another thing that comes into play. And basically, I think that this idea of intersectionality is because historically feminism was based only through the lens of white women. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to change that. Yeah.
So Professor Crenshaw, she is kind of the one who coined the term.
Yes. So, that's kind of, the basic that I had about her. But you found something surprising out.
Yeah, so when I was researching, I was just thinking about, one of the biggest moments in history was the 19th Amendment being passed, and that was the women's right to vote.
Yes.
Because before that, we weren't allowed to vote at all. We weren't allowed to do a lot of stuff, but we weren't counted as people to vote. So I was just curious when that happened and what was going on with that. And did you know that the 19th Amendment was first introduced to Congress in 1878, but it was later actually passed in 1920?
Oh, so I knew that it was 1920, but I didn't know that it was introduced so.
Yeah.
I didn't know it took that long.
Me either. It's 42 years.
That's crazy.
In case you don't know. So on paper, we think of that amendment as protecting women from discrimination and giving them the right to vote and blah, blah, blah. But it really only gave white women the right to vote.
So the idea is not all black women or women of color in general could vote in 1920.
Yeah, but not all of them. A lot of the southern states prohibited them from voting, but some states were different. But the 1965 Voting Rights Act was the one that was no, every state has to allow this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And I think that is part of why we need to think of feminism through an intersectional lens, because
we're just blind to like shit because we're white. So we need to,
start thinking about shit.
Start thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. So another like kind of prominent voice in intersectional feminism is Bell Hooks, but
That's an age to go out.
She grew up going to segregated schools in Kentucky and Appalachia. Yeah. And so she writes a lot about that, and she's one of the most recognized feminist like intellectuals of our time. And she's written 36 books that talk a lot about the intersections of race, gender, and class.
Jeez, 36.
Yeah,
She's
36.
busy. She's a busy woman.
One of her more prominent ones is called Ain't I a Woman? And that's a 1981 book that talks about the impact of both racism and sexism on Black women. So it was a book about intersectionality before there was a word for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Shouts out.
Mm-hmm. And then in 1989, that's when Kimberly coined the term intersectionality.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she said that Hooks' work gave people a lot of validity to be able to talk about or critique white women-led feminism and then male-dominated anti-racism.
Mm-hmm.
So, because it's like, she gave a voice to Black women pretty much to be able to kind of critique that.
Yeah.
And she also had another book, Feminist Theory from Margin to Center. And so it's, about feminist theory. And she defines feminism as the struggle to end sexist oppression.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I thought was interesting, because have you seen the movie Paris is Burning? It's what Pose is based off of.
Yes.
It's about the ball.
One time.
It's about ball culture in New York City, right?
Yeah.
And so she actually criticized that movie because she says that it glorifies drag culture that is grounded in the fantasy that ruling class white culture is like the quintessential joy. Which I guess it's like because they're dressing up like the white people do.
Yeah, that was my first thought. Like, they present themselves like rich and royal and upper class and stuff, and that's like what you're supposed to strive for at those balls.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, she had a lot of like, deep cuts.
We're going to have to read some of her books.
Yeah. I feel like you've probably seen this book. Like, a lot of the feminist girlies are reading it. I feel like I see it at every bookstore. It's like a New York Times bestseller, and I want to say it was 2001. But this is the one that I feel like a lot of feminist girlies try to read. It's called All About Love by Bell Hooks, and I mean, it's about how, I guess, being in relationships and love affects women. But another interesting fact about Bell Hooks is that do you notice that she writes her name in lowercase? Mm-hmm. And that's on purpose. So it's actually her pen name, and her name is Gloria Watkins. Oh. But the pen name was derived from her great-grandmother, and she writes it in lowercase to shift her identity from herself to her ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not important here.
Yeah. It's more like the ideas.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
well,
cool lady. She I don't know, I think she's like kind of the backbone of the idea of intersectional feminism. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next point, which is what they call white feminism, which is what
it's kind of what.
Yeah. So
she criticizes white feminism, basically.
Right. Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah. She's a criticizer of white feminism, which, if you guys don't know the term white feminism, it just refers to a type of feminism that is focusing only on like the white middle class women, prioritizes issues that affect them.
You know what? A big person that gets criticized for this is Lena Dunham.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. I should have looked her up. She has been criticized for that, but like the girl boss feminism.
Yeah. It's like
like it tends to be focused on empowerment through capitalist means, which is not accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
So calling for an increase of women CEOs and the hustle culture trend and stuff. Like, it prioritizes achieving equality for white women, insisting that their equality will open up the doors for all other women. But that's just not true.
Yeah.
So it's harmful, and that's why it's important to look at it through a lens of all women, because we need it, like feminism. If we're gonna be feminists, we need to be feminists towards literally every type of woman.
Yeah, and we need to think about the differences in struggles that subgroups might have.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're fighting for as a white woman might not even matter to people of color, or might not help them at all. Maybe it even hurts them. So it's harmful to people or women of color when you're viewing the world through your white feminism. You might not even be aware that you've subscribed to that. So it's like just taking a look at yourself and understand why it's harmful, and figure out how it excludes whole communities of women. So all women, experience misogyny and oppression, but white women, they're still white, so they benefit from the white supremacy and
white privilege.
Yeah, they have their white privilege. Even though they're women, they have white privilege. So an example of that is maybe feminism ignores, like, what if their feminism ignores the police brutality on Black women or women of color? Breonna Taylor. Like, if you're a feminist and you're not advocating for Breonna Taylor, who got killed by the police for no reason at all, it's because it doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
And that's your
like
white...
if it was a white woman, that never would have happened.
Yeah. So that negatively affects other women, not just, so it's also, there's a lot of white women that like tone police is something I read about.
Never heard that.
So it's when they like center themselves in the conversation, also can be known as white splaining, or if they get defensive around topics relating to race, like white fragility, Women of color have to navigate these situations on a regular basis. So it kind of goes like a white woman kind of looking down on a Black woman or person of color and making the conversation about them rather than hearing them out. Like, I'm thinking more of like in a work area or something.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Where it's like, but we all have. It just goes into like the all lives matter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like within feminism.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. So that's what it's kind of breaking down. Also, there is a book called White Tears, Brown Scars by Ruby Hamad, which I want to read. But it talks about how white women and their feminism can uphold structures of white supremacy, which can also be found in Islamophobia. So that's just another group of women that are affected by sexist things, but white women don't necessarily maybe care about.
Well, I think it's also the idea that white women will see a woman in a hijab and automatically assume that she is oppressed.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So she's like, it's like you have to see that sometimes these women have the choice and they choose to
it's not
dress
about
modestly
that.
and yeah.
That's a good point. Some places have banned the hijab across several European countries. Like Boris Johnson would make Islamophobic comments that might not have happened without white feminism propping up the need to have structures and laws and policy that...
No, that makes sense though, because I think that it's like gets into the kind of white savior mentality.
Yeah.
Of like white women trying to seeming like they're trying to help, but they really just don't understand the culture.
Yeah, and that's
and it's harmful to them.
A white woman is not trying to understand other people's culture. Yeah. So, of course, if they don't take the time to understand that, they're going to look at that and say, "Oh, you're oppressed. We need women's rights policy to help the Muslim women, and we're the white saviors, and we're white splaining of why this is wrong."
Yeah.
So it's harmful for everyone involved, and don't do it. Don't be a white feminist.
Don't be. Well, you can be white and you can be feminist.
Don't perpetuate white supremacy in your feminist practices.
Exactly. Be intersectional.
Be intersectional.
Please consider those of other cultures outside your own.
Yeah, it's really not hard, you guys. It's really not hard. You just have to have something called empathy.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, like,
and then educate yourself a little bit.
Consider people that have grown up in a different way, or
put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Don't be so self-centered.
It's also just like, of course we have to, because if you're trying to ask white men to do that for you, you have to be able to do it for other people too. You have to be able to, if you're trying to like shed light on how you've been oppressed, you have to consider that some people have been oppressed in different ways than you have.
Yeah, and in the same ways plus different ways.
Yes, exactly. Like on top of just that. Yeah.
So, step off your high horse and take a look around.
Make way.
Make way for all the women of the world.
Yes, exactly. And I think that also it's important to mention that this is also, it's not only about culture. Well, it's not only about race it's not only about race. It's also about like identity. And I think that, so we need to like include the LGBTQ community and
queer women, trans women. Yeah. That it goes into that too. Like you can't advocate for just one group of women. You have to advocate for all the women. So gender identity and all that goes into it as well.
And disability.
Disability. The American Disability Act wasn't signed until 1990.
Which is crazy.
And it's the one that protects women and men with disabilities against discrimination. There's a lot that it does, but...
Right. So it's like just another layer. There's many, many layers, I think, that are thought of. And in the end, feminism is about equality.
Yeah,
for all.
Just straight up.
So we just need to consider all groups,
I mean,
and all subgroups and the layers that are involved in it.
It's pretty simple. Yeah. It's a pretty simple concept in my mind.
Yeah. So another voice in intersectional feminism that I wanted to mention, I have to prep myself for this.
You had it when we were not recording.
I have to prep myself for this. It's Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
That was
good. She is known for writing the essay "We Should All Be Feminists." It's a small book, and it's also a TED Talk.
It's really cute.
Yeah,
it's a cute book.
And then she also wrote a book called, she's written a lot of books, but another notable book of hers is Americana, which I read back, I read it back in like 2016 or something. But she is just a beautiful storyteller, like just excellent storyteller. And it's a lot of it is through the lens of a Black woman, specifically African woman. So she's from Nigeria. And I wanted to read a little excerpt from her book, We Should All Be Feminists.
Yes, please do.
So, well, I guess at first I should say We Should All Be Feminists is like a series of like short stories, just little excerpts from her life that talk about her experience as a feminist woman from Nigeria. And then she tells a lot of like childhood stories or like lifetime stories about her family and then experiences in other countries. And then, so she defines a feminist as a man or a woman who says, yes, there's a problem with gender as it is today, and we must fix it. We must do better. That's kind of her.
Yeah. I feel like the white feminists are the ones who are to blame for this. But I think a lot of men especially are like, oh, I'm not a feminist because that's when they hate all men.
Yeah.
And that's not it. It's literally just you believe in equality for men and women.
Yeah.
You can be a man, feminist. You can be anything. You can, a dog, feminist.
Yeah.
Alfredo's a feminist, I'm just saying. But yeah, I think that's important to note is it's a man or a woman.
Yeah.
And it's just simply.
Or non-binary
person. And they're just simply wanting equality for both sexes or all sexes, I should say.
And they're acknowledging that there's a problem that we need to fix.
Yeah, like
So,
it's simple.
yeah, I really like the way she does. Her writing puts things really succinctly. Like, I think it's easy to digest and understand.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to read this little story because I thought it was, well, it's a cute story, but it's also like, whoa, you know, and I think that a lot of young women have had experiences like this.
Okay.
But so she said, now here's a story from my childhood. When I was in primary school in Nsukka, a university town in southeastern Nigeria, my teacher said at the beginning of term that she would give the class a test, and whoever got the highest score would be the class monitor. Class monitor was a big deal. If you were class monitor, you would write down the names of the noisemakers each day, which was...
You're a snitch.
Yep, which was heady enough power on its own. But my teacher would also give you a cane to hold in your hand while you walked around and patrolled the class for noisemakers.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah. Of course, you were not allowed to actually use the cane, but it was an exciting prospect for the 9-year-old me. I very much wanted to be class monitor, and I got the highest score on the test. Then, to my surprise, my teacher said the monitor had to be a boy. She had forgotten to make that clear earlier. She assumed it was obvious. Wow. A boy had the second highest score on the test, and he would be monitor. What was even more interesting is that this boy was a sweet, gentle soul who had no interest in patrolling the class with a stick, while I was full of ambition to do so. But I was female and he was male, and he became class monitor. I'd never forgotten about that incident. If we do something over and over again, it becomes normal. If we see the same thing over and over again, it becomes normal. If only boys are made class monitor, then at some point we all think, even if unconsciously, that the class monitor has to be a boy. If we keep seeing only men as heads of corporations, it starts to seem natural that only men should be heads of corporations. So that's
like a young memory that she had that like shaped her outlook.
Yeah.
At 9 years old, she's like, what?
And
Wait.
it's a good point too. It's like we see, if it's the norm, we don't question it, you know, but we need to start questioning it.
Yeah, because just because it's normal doesn't mean it's right.
Exactly. But yeah, that's kind of like all I had in terms of the people that I wanted to talk about. But I do want to say that I chose the names that came up a lot in my research when it came to like feminist or intersectional feminist writing. But of course, if we're thinking about intersectionality, we should also not forget to mention women from other cultures and other races and identities. But there's just too many to have in one small
There's
episode.
a lot, which is good.
Good. But I don't want to say that these are the only women that should be recognized for you know, their theories and writing about it.
Of course.
But yeah, how can we avoid our own bias as white women?
That's a good question there, Kirsten. What do you think?
I think we all like are living in the world of our own heads. And so with anything, we have to like kind of stop and think, oh, what could this be like for the other person? Or if you're in some kind of argument with someone, you have to like take a step back and think about why they're actually believing what they're believing.
Yeah, just have some empathy towards other women. Believe other women too. When they say that they're discriminated against and they face these issues, believe them and, you know, don't shut them down.
And I think if you are a leader of a feminist group, maybe put the women of color to the front as far as like the voices go. Like, let's say you're like a feminist magazine. Try to include a variety of voices, not just white women.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I also think we have a computer at our fingertips at all times. It's your phone, if you didn't know. And we have so many ways to educate ourselves. And I think that even if you mean well and you do see things from other people's perspective, sometimes you're still just, you grew up white with your white experience. And maybe you can't even wrap your head around some things, or maybe you have never even heard of some things before. So I think just getting educated is another way to kind of put yourself in other people's shoes and just kind of learn more about, you know, intersectionality as a whole.
Yeah.
just read books, go on TikTok, search, follow some people of color creators.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with more people of color, or learn, try to learn from them.
Yeah.
But also like do your own education, read some books.
Don't make them do the work for you.
Yeah, of course. But like, just for me, like having Black women friends has opened up a lot of things for me, like that I would never think about. Like, going to the Catalina wine mixer with Jocelyn was probably such an eye-opening experience for me. Oh. Just because I got to see, because the Catalina wine mixer is very middle-aged white women heavy, and I got to see just how she was treated at this like event, and how women were trying to touch. One of them touched her butt. One of them touched her hair, like just making offhanded comments. Like, it was crazy. And that's what I mean by like surrounding yourself by other people besides people who look like you, because you can kind of see their experiences at the same time and kind of have your mind opened.
That reminds me of Love is Blind and how AD is treated in the party when they're all outside of the
sexualizing her.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, is she the only, I don't know if she's the only woman of color, but she's the only Black woman that's left in the, and yeah, they're like definitely sexualizing her body, and there's like some weird like titty slapping joke or something. Like, so it's like, I feel like also if you're consuming media, that can help you learn. Just from noticing shit like that, it's like, whoa, okay, this is different for her than it is for the other women.
And that's what that's essentially that's what happened to Jocelyn. Was she was wearing a tight little outfit, and some white lady thought it was okay to pinch her butt.
That's crazy.
Because why would she wear that if she didn't? I think I've talked about this before.
No? I've never heard this story before. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, we almost got into fights at Catalina Wine Mixer. These women were wiling out, dude.
When they did that, like, did you guys...
So I almost got in a fight with this like 50-year-old lady because she's the one who, she pinched her butt. God. And she was like, "Oh my God, it's such a cute butt," and like pinched her butt. And Jocelyn got pissed, and she was like, "Don't touch me." And so I took it. I was a little tipsy. I took it upon myself to like get in her face, not get in her face, but be aggressive and saying like, "Do not touch her. What are you doing?" And she was like, "Well, her outfit, her butt looks cute. Like, why would she wear that?" And I was like,
"You literally sound like a white man."
I know.
To like. Oh, the woman. So,
and I was like, as a woman, you should be ashamed of yourself for like thinking that way. Like, we got into it, and then she was kind of yelling at me, and I was yelling at her, and I was like, let's just go. Like, we got away from her. But then like 10 minutes later, we're sitting on our blanket, and this other white lady comes by and tells her she loves her hair and touches it.
Oh my God.
And Jocelyn by that point was so fed up. She grabbed the lady's wrist and like twisted it and was like, "Don't touch my hair." And she was like, "Ow, ow, you're hurting me."
Oh my God.
And I like took her to the side, and I was like, "You cannot touch women's hair, especially Black people's hair. Do not do that." And I had to, I was trying to explain it to her.
Like, I'm not an animal for you to pet. Like,
and she at the end was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Like,
well, now she knows. Like, don't do it again. Bitch.
So that, I mean, I knew that happened, but just being so close to it.
Seeing it up front,
I was like, fuck, dude.
It's like when I try to explain to my guy friends like how much we get catcalled, and then they actually like see it in person. They're like, "Oh, that happens to you all the time?" Like,
it's like literally every day I go to the gas station, it's gonna happen. And they don't. So it's they like they think we're exaggerating or something.
Yeah. So it's like, if we know that happens to us, we need to believe other women
and stand up for them when we see it happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Well, even though this wasn't like a funny time episode, I still think it was good.
I think so too. I feel like we got some reading to do.
Yeah, we do. Because now I really want to read those books.
Yeah, I want to finish reading this one. I got like halfway through it. This one's really tiny, so it's like a couple hours.
Just read that while you're taking a shit.
Exactly. It's a good
bathroom book.
But I'm referring to the We Should All Be Feminists. It's basically like a long essay, but yeah. But also her book Americana was so good.
Okay, I want to read more of these books.
Yeah, I want to read more Bell Hooks. I feel like I have All About Love, but I almost don't want to start with All About Love. I want to start with one of her old ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go buy those books.
Yeah, guys.
I'm sure they're on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, don't buy them from Amazon. Go to your local bookstore. Go to your local bookstore.
Feed the corporations.
Find a woman-owned.
Get it in 2 days.
Find a woman-owned bookstore, a woman-owned or POC woman-owned bookstore.
Yeah.
And purchase.
I was just kidding, you guys. That's what we really should do. Because fuck Jeff Bezos, but. Yeah. But hey,
sometimes it's convenient.
2-day delivery, baby.
That is really nice. We don't want to support it, but listen.
No, go to your local book. Yeah. Even if it's not woman owned. Oh my God, can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch Portlandia?
Yeah.
Did you see the skit Women and Women First?
No,
it's the two women who own the bookstore in Portland, and one of them is just Fred Armstead, like dressed up as a woman with long gray hair. And they're both like super feminist, and like if a man comes into their shop, they're like eyeing him like, what are you doing here? And then he was like, could you grab the book up there for me? And she's like, oh, this one. She's touching it. She's like, oh, this one. I can't reach it. I'm sorry. The bathroom's only for paying customers, but you can't buy this book. I can't reach it. It's a funny skit. Me and Kristen dressed up as them one year for Halloween.
The bookstore girl, like that specifically from that.
Yes,
skit. That's funny.
Like one person knew who we were.
That's cute.
Anyway,
well, I hope you guys like this. Hope you learned something. Also, maybe this is like common knowledge for you guys, and we're just stupid. But I hope it helped someone.
Yeah, we might just be dumb, but hopefully, if you're listening to this, it can help you. Follow us on Instagram. Thank you so much, Pod.
And if you guys notice some weird sounds happening, it's because we need new microphones. And again, we're going to ask you guys, go to the link in our bio and go to the link in our bio to buy us a coffee.
Yes.
And it's basically a place where you can just send us
$5.
Like a $5 tip.
Yeah.
And then it's like
it adds up, and then we can
buy microphones.
Yeah, because these are going out.
Yeah, this is crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, love you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Mwah.